You know what? We're going to start in child's pose today. And our toes together, knees are nice and wide, arms come out in front of us. We'll just sink those butts back to our heels, lower our chests down to our mats. Anyway, close our eyes and just take a few breaths here. Settle in, check in with how we're feeling. And remind ourselves that we are working with the body that we have at this moment. Do our best to let go of any expectations that we may have of ourselves or of our practice. Let go of judgment. Do our best to stay present as we practice today. Good. And then from here, let's just walk those hands over to one side, reaching across our body, sitting our hips down low, and open up in that side body. And then we'll come back to the center. One full breath here. And then when we're ready, walking the hands over to the other side. Good. And then coming back to the center. And then we'll slowly bring our shoulders forward, coming into our tabletop here. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. Knees are under our hips. We can tuck those toes if we would like, or we can just let them be soft behind us. Let's press into those fingers and we'll just turn little circles around in our wrists. Moving our shoulders around and around 3-ish times in one direction. And then we'll stop and go the other direction. Good. And then finding ourselves in that tabletop again. Neutral spine. Begin to breathe into our bellies. Lengthen from the tip of our tail all the way to the top of our head. Good. And then exhale. Let's round into a cat. Lifting our spine up to the sky. Tucking our tail in our head. And then inhale to a cow, dropping the tummy, lifting the heart, pressing into the hands. And then exhaling cat. And inhaling cow. Just moving with our breath. Our spine all lubed up. Let's do one more cat and one more cow. And then we'll come back to that neutral spine. Bellies are strong, backs are supported, lengthening in our neck and in our back. Good. Let's just walk the hands just one little step out in front of us. We'll bring the shoulders forward into a little tiny plank. Hips can come forward. Lengthen in that low back. Lift the heart. Pressing into the fingers. Good. And then exhale. We'll just keep moving those shoulders lower down. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. Feet are soft behind us. Pressing just lightly into the hands. We don't want to use the arms to bring ourselves up. We're actually going to use the chest and those back muscles to lift up into a baby cobra. Pull the shoulders back. Excellent. Lowering back down. Beautiful. Now we can press further into those hands, all the way into our child's pose. Rounding in the back. Hips are low. Good. Let's inhale up to our little plank. We'll get to moving now. Good. Exhale. Lower down. Elbows back by our ribs. Soft press into the hands as we use those back muscles to lift into baby cobra. And then pressing back to child's pose. Inhaling up. Exhale, we lower down. Inhale, we scoop into our back bend. And then press back, child's pose. Let's do that 2 more times at our pace. As we move with our breath. And then we'll meet in child's pose when we're ready. Good. From here, let's wiggle those fingers forward just a little bit. Our hips will come up off of our heels. Shoulders stay low as we come into a little puppy dog pose. Arms are out in front. Chests are sinking down. Hips are over the knees. Good. And then let's press into those hands. Walk ourselves back up into our tabletop. We'll tuck the toes underneath of our feet here. Press into those palms and then begin to lift our hips up and then back. We'll find ourselves in our downward facing dog, pedaling the feet and wag our tail. Wiggle our way into our down dog. Pulling the shoulders back, away from the wrists. Good. And now let's lift up that right leg. We'll step forward in between our hands. And we'll come all the way up into like a star pose. So we'll turn to the left, opening ourselves wide. Toes are pointing to the corners of our mat. Lifting our hands. Exhale, let's bend those knees. Sit down into a little squat. Elbows come to our ribs. Good. Inhale, we'll come up. And exhale, lower down. Good. Inhale, lifting. And exhale, lowering. Moving with our breath up and down. Get those hips open and up wide. Shoulders are getting worked in. Good. Exhale down. Feel the core being strong as it helps to lift and helps to lower. Let's lift one more time. Inhale high, reaching our fingers up to the sky. And then let's soften the knees ever so slightly, and we'll fold forward into a wide-legged fold. Now let's walk our hands around to the top of our mat. We'll step back for downward facing dog. Good. Let's lift up the right leg. Reach it back behind us. Toes and hips are pointed down toward the floor, lengthening throughout. Good. And now let's bend the knee, bringing it into our chest, hovering forward into our plank. And then exhale, we'll press it back. Three-legged dog. Let's do that one more time. Inhale forward and press back. Good. And now let's kick ourselves in the butt. Open up the hip. And then we'll step forward all the way to the top of our mat. Inhale, open up, warrior two. So we'll lower down that left heel, open the hips up to the left, reaching in opposite directions with those hands. Shoulders are going down the back. And then inhale, reverse warrior. Let's extend that right leg, reaching with the right hand up to the sky. And then exhale, let's come to a side angle. Right arm comes to the thigh, left hand reaches up and over. And then inhale, again, extended reverse warrior. And while our legs are long, let's shift those hips back behind us, and we'll come down into a triangle pose. Good. Inhaling, both hands come up high. I'm going to turn it around so that we don't have to just stare at my butt. Both hands up high in a star pose. And then hands come down to our hearts. Good. Bending that left knee, coming on over to a skandasana or a side lunge. Right toes can point up to the sky if we would like, or if we would like them to kind of point down, it's up to you. Good. And then the hands will come down. We're going to walk around to this left foot. Good. Stepping forward. So we might be at the bottom of our mat here. Let's sit down into our chair. Hands come up to the sky. Good. Inhale, nice and tall. And now let's lift up the left leg. Knee comes in toward our chest. Good. Let's cross that left leg over the right knee and sit back down into our chair. Inhale, lifting, knee comes into our chest. And now let's step that thing all the way back for warrior three. Good. Lowering that left leg all the way back for a high lunge. Good. And then from here, hands can come down to the mat if we would like. Turn again. And then we're going to, again, turn to the side, facing to the left for a low squat. Good. And again, hands come down. Walking around to the top of our mat. Let's step all the way back for a three-legged dog. And then inhale forward. We can do a three-legged plank here, or if we would like, we can lower the toes down or the knees down. Exhale all the way down to our tummies. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. Let's inhale to a cobra or an upward facing dog. Tuck the toes and press back for downward facing dog. Good. And now just a little step forward with our left leg. We'll turn to the left, to the center for a wide-legged fold again. Good. Give ourselves a little wiggle here if we would like. And then when we're ready, we'll just walk those hands around to the top of our mat. Let's step back for downward facing dog. Let's lift up that left leg. Three-legged dog here, pressing the heel away from us. Both of our hips are pointing down toward the earth. Toes are pointing to the earth. And then inhale, let's bring that knee into our chest. Hover forward into a plank, and then press back as we exhale. Inhale, let's bring that knee in again. And exhale, pressing back. Good, and now this time, let's step all the way forward into our lunge. We'll lower that right heel, open up for warrior two. Sinking those hips low, opening them wide. Good, inhale, extended reverse warrior, lifting that left hand, extending the left leg. And then exhale, side angle, resting that left arm on the thigh, reaching up and over with the right arm. Inhale, extended reverse warrior. Good, and now let's shift those hips back behind us, reach forward with the left hand, and come into triangle pose. Good, inhale, back up to our reverse warrior, and then both hands can come up for a star pose, pointing out to the side here. Good, hands come together, and we'll come over to that side lunge, so bending the right knee, sitting our bums low. We can lift up those left toes. Good, and then hands will come down to the mat, walk around toward that right foot. Good, and then stepping forward with the left into our fold. And then bending the knees. Inhale, hands come up high for chair. Good, inhale, all the way up to the sky. Let's lift up that right leg. Knee comes in toward our chest. And then we'll cross the ankle over that left knee. And again, sit down into our chair. Inhaling, standing tall, bringing that right knee into our chest. And then exhale, let's slowly tip forward, reaching that right leg back behind us for warrior three. And then we'll lower the foot down to the mat for a high lunge. Good. And now let's open up to the side for a big wide-legged squat. And then inhale nice and tall. We'll point those left or right toes towards our mat and come down to our lunge. And here we go, stepping back, three-legged dog with that right leg. Inhale. We have our choice of doing a regular plank on our toes or on our knees, or a three-legged plank. Exhale, we lower ourselves down. Foot can come all the way down. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Let's tuck those toes. Lift the hips, press back for downward facing dog. Give ourselves a little wiggle here if we would like. Good. And now let's walk our hands backwards towards our feet and find a forward fold. From here, let's bring our hands to our shins or to our toes, lengthen in the legs, looking forward to lengthen in the back. And then exhale, folding forwards. Maybe we can get a little bit deeper in that fold. And then we'll bend the knees, hands find the mat. Let's walk forward all the way to plank. Strong plank here. Tuck that tail, lengthen in the quads and in the low back, pressing into the hands, spreading those shoulders wide behind us. Good. And now let's exhale, shifting our shoulders forward, lowering ourselves oh so slowly down to our tummies. We can soften the feet. Arms come out to a goal post right here. Good. And now let's keep this right arm where it's at, moving the shoulder in towards the mat. We can step back with that left leg behind us. Keep moving this right shoulder in toward the mat. Good. And back to the center. And we'll switch sides. So left arm stays in the goalpost, shoulders moving in towards the mat. And we'll step backwards behind us with that right leg. And back to the center. Good. Hands come underneath of our shoulders, pressing into those palms. Let's scoop the chest forward and then up for upward facing dog. Good. And then again, lowering ourselves down to our tummies. Elbows are going to come underneath of our shoulders, pressing into the palms and into the forearms, pulling the shoulders back. Let's tuck those toes behind us. Tuck the tail. Lift up into a forearm plank. And now let's bend at the hips and come back for a dolphin pose. So a downward facing dog on our forearms. Think about squeezing those arms toward each other, lifting the hips, bending the knees if we need. Beautiful job. Let's inhale, come back to that forearm plank. And we can gently come up onto our hands. We'll lower that right knee down to the mat. Extend the left leg out behind us. Lift the left hand. Good, and now let's lower that left hand back down to the mat. Right knee is still bent. We'll take the left leg forward to the outside of those left fingers. And then we'll inhale to a high half lunge. Think about opening up back here to open up in the front of our hips. And now let's see if we can take that right hand back to our heel or to our ankle. And then back up to the top. Exhale, hands come back down to the mat. Good, let's tuck that right toe and lift the knee. We'll step back for downward facing dog. Good, inhaling forward into our plank. Let's be real strong here. No droopy tummies. And then exhale, shoulders come forward, elbows go back. Slowly lowering ourselves down. Softening the feet underneath of us. Arms come to a goal post here. This time we'll press into this left hand so we can lift our chest, and we'll do a thread the needle here. So we'll take the right arm underneath the left and then lower ourselves back down. Good, pressing into that left hand. We'll unwind, maybe take a breath here in the center. And then when we're ready, we'll press into that right arm, lift the chest, left arm threads underneath, palm up. And then we'll lower the chest back down. And then let's press into that right arm. We'll unwind. We can take a breath here if we would like. And then hands come underneath of our shoulders, pulling those buddies back. Inhale, chest and hips come forward as we inhale up to an upward facing dog. Only thing that will touch the ground here are our hands and the tippy tops of our feet. Thighs are barely off of the ground. Hips and spine are working forward. Good, and then slowly we'll lower ourselves down. Again, bringing those elbows underneath of our shoulders. We'll tuck the feet back behind us. Press into our palms and our forearms and our toes here. Activate those thighs so that they can lift up off of the ground into a forearm plank. And now let's bend the knees. Press back those hips for dolphin pose. Good, and now inhale, coming back to that plank, and we'll help ourselves up onto our hands again. We'll lower down the left knee this time, and we'll open up to the right for a modified side plank, lengthening in that right leg, lifting the ribs and our right hand up to the sky. Beautiful. And now let's lower that right hand back down to the mat. Left knee is still bent on the mat. Let's take that right foot forward. Come into our little lunge here. When we're ready, hands come up high. Hands are reaching high. Tail is stretching down toward the ground. Hips are coming forward, chests are lifting. Let's see if we can take that left hand back. We can come to the calf, the ankle, if we can get to the toe. Or the heel, not the toe. That would be real good. And then slowly we'll come back up to that crescent lunge. Hands can come back down. And then with this right foot, we're just gonna swish it in and we'll come down onto our bums. Good. Feet will come out in front of us. Right here, very good. And now let's lengthen in that right leg. Tuck the left in toward the thigh for Janu Shirshasana. Toes are pointing to the sky with that right foot. Good. Let's inhale, hands come up high. And then we'll just do a little twist over to the left. Our hands can come down. Left hand to the mat, right hand to the outside of the thigh. Lengthen in that spine as we inhale. Exhale, we twist. And then slowly we'll unwind just enough so that we're still facing this left knee. We're going to just lower that right arm to the inside of its leg, keeping the shoulders stacked and opening up toward the sky. Lift up that left hand, reaching it up, and then maybe over our ear. And now let's take that left hand, we'll just exhale, lower it down to our mats. Both hands are in the center, little forward fold here. And then we'll slowly help ourselves up to seated. Good. And we'll switch over to the other side. So lengthening in this left leg, right leg can tuck into the thigh. Good. Hips are still pointing out in front of us. Inhale, hands come up high. Little twist here. Exhale, turning to the right. And then we'll slowly unwind enough that we're facing this right knee, lowering the left hand down to the inside of the leg, stacking the shoulders, lifting the right hand up and then over. And checking in, how are we doing in our neck and in our shoulders? Because we're kind of in this funky situation, we might want to tense up. See if we can relax that. Make the neck feel a little bit better. It can be supported without being tense. One more inhale here. Exhaling, and then at the tail end of the exhale, we'll turn those shoulders down toward the earth. Hands can come down. Find a little fold here. And then we'll slowly help ourselves up. And bring those feet out in front of us. If we need to, give ourselves a bit of a wiggle. And then we'll roll up into our little ball and we'll rock back onto our backs. Bringing the knees into our chest, hugging them tightly. And now let's extend those legs up to the sky. We can help them with our hands just by touching behind our thighs or our calves, just barely guiding them towards us. Good. And now we'll just work our way into a figure four. So we'll bend that left knee. We'll place the right ankle over that left knee, flexing both feet. Hands can come back behind the thigh, holding that hamstring if we would like, and then gently we'll bring the legs in towards us. But we have to think about this right knee. We want to move it away from us. So if we need to, we can use the elbow to just help it go in the direction that we want it to go. And now let's lower that left foot down, keeping the cross in our legs. Still moving the right knee away from our body. We're just going to tilt those legs over to the left into a little bit of a spinal twist, a little bit of an outer hip stretch. Good. And then we'll slowly come back to the center with those legs. We'll uncross and give ourselves a wiggle if we would like. And we'll roll up into our little ball. Inhale, legs come up to the sky. Guide them towards us. And then we'll bend that right knee, cross the left ankle over, and we'll snake our little hands through the little hole and gently encourage those legs to come in towards us. And also encouraging the left knee to move away from us. A little bit rotation in that hip. Now release the hamstring with our hands. Place that right foot onto our mat, keeping the cross in our legs. Again, gently guiding the left knee away from us. And then when we're ready, we'll just let the legs fall over to the right. Good. And now let's inhale. Bring those legs back to the center. We can unwind. Like, give ourselves a little bit of a wiggle here. Good. And then feet will come all the way up by our butts as close as we can get them. Hands will just hang out by our sides. Can be palm up or palm down. Walk the shoulders underneath us a little bit here. And begin to engage in that core. Tuck the tail so that we're turning that pelvis. And we'll begin to lift our butt up off of the floor. Raising the hips up to the sky. As we come into bridge pose, think about bringing the knees together. They'll want to flail out to the sides. Bring them back in. Lifting the belly, lifting the heart. And then starting at the top of our spine, exhale, one vertebra down at a time. Until we get all the way down to the bottom of our spine. And then when we're ready, we'll tuck that tail again, lift our hips up nice and high. Now let's lift up that right leg, reach it to the sky. And lower it down. Keep the hips high. Let's challenge ourselves a little bit here. Lift up the left. Good. And lower that leg down. Lower our back down. Good. Let's bring those knees into our chest. Roll up into our little ball, really round in the back. One more deep inhale here. And then exhale, release, and we'll lower our legs and our arms, head and shoulders down to the mat. We close our eyes. We soften our jaw. And we release throughout our body. We give ourselves a few minutes of stillness, of rest. And if we're ready, we deepen our breath. We wiggle our fingers and our toes. And gently bring awareness back into our bodies. We'll bring our knees into our chest. We'll roll over onto our side. We're ready. We'll gently come up to seated. Our eyes are closed. Our body might still be waking up. And take a moment to check in with how we are feeling now. After our practice and after our Shavasana nap. Opening our eyes, inhale, lifting our hands up to the sky. And bringing them together at the top. And we'll exhale them down to our hearts with a purpose. I applaud you all for your dedication to making yourselves feel better, for wanting to connect with your bodies, taking some time for yourself. It is a great honor that you joined me today and allowed me to help you through your practice. I hope that we feel even just a little bit better than when we started. I wish you all a very, very happy day full of joy and sunshine and hope. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.